Hello, I'm so sorry I can't be with you today at the summit, and I really apologise as I know you're addressing some really critical topics, particularly around entrepreneurship. As you know, I was asked by the government in the UK, particularly the Treasury, to lead a review into female entrepreneurship and the barriers that were facing female entrepreneurs in the UK. Working with McKinsey, we did a very detailed report looking at both quantitative and qualitative measures to see why we were not getting the same level of growth and throughput for female entrepreneurs. In the UK, we have almost 1,100 startups happening every day, which is fantastic, a great demand and growth in entrepreneurs, but only 1 in 3 of those are women. We also found that less than half of the scale-up that goes into entrepreneurs goes to female-led businesses. And when you look at the level of VC funding, only 1% of venture capital funding is going to female-led businesses. Looking around the world at best practice, we can see best-in-class measures for really supporting female entrepreneurs in places like Canada, the Netherlands, Australia and the US. And if we in the UK can unlock the same level of growth for female entrepreneurs as male-led entrepreneurs, we would be adding 250 billion contribution to the UK economy. And in a time when all economies are facing lower growth, lower for longer scenarios and productivity challenges, that feels like an opportunity that we really should be supporting and helping unlock the potential, because that entrepreneurial drive and spirit is there. So for me, the report was a really critical business imperative. How can we do more to support entrepreneurs, and in particular female entrepreneurs? The research was very detailed, and we conducted a review of global research as well as interviews with male and female-led entrepreneurs and reviewing lots of the research that's already been done. And we boiled it down to 5 key barriers that were facing female entrepreneurs. One was the lack of access and awareness of VC funding, and I think that nuance is very important, access and awareness. And that 1% I think is a really shocking statistic. The second was that primary care responsibilities, whether those are family or children, tend to fall disproportionately to female-led entrepreneurs. The third barrier was a perceived lack of skills and experience. We saw when we interviewed entrepreneurs, male and female, females would cite that they didn't have the experience or the skills to make the next step. Actually, what we saw was their skills and experience were very relevant and very pertinent and equivalent to the male-led entrepreneur, so it was a perception point. The fourth barrier was higher risk awareness among female entrepreneurs. They are not more risk averse, and I think that really is an important point that is often a misconception or a myth that is labelled around there. But more risk awareness, which means they come across slightly in pitches as not asking for the maximum amount of money that they may need or being more bullish on their cases, so that risk awareness point. And the fifth barrier was lack of access to relatable role models and sponsors. And very critically that came out here was the relatable local role models. What entrepreneurs wanted was someone who'd been on the journey, who could relate to, who could access them. So those were 5 core barriers that underpinned the blockages that we saw. We also saw, when we were looking at the life cycle of entrepreneurs, that we were seeing less women starting up businesses, but also thinking about starting a business as they were coming out of school or education. Women are less represented in the high growth segments, and they're less likely to consider starting a business or entrepreneurship. So there's definitely a pipeline education and a STEM issue that I know we're all facing into as well. What the report tried to do was, rather than stare at this problem, which I describe as hiding in plain sight, was to try and come up with a series of recommendations, practical interventions to try and help unblock some of these barriers. And what's very key here is there is no one silver bullet. What we wanted to do was try and get practical steps which would start momentum. And I think what is really critical here is we need real collaboration and partnership across public sector and private sector to ensure that we can all lean in and help. My message is very much this is a non-competitive sport, and where we can help, those who can help, they should help, and we should all lean in, because this is a benefit for all, because it will make real contribution to economic growth, real contribution to entrepreneurial success and sustainability, and therefore broader contribution to society as a whole, as well as the business growth that we're talking about. We put in place 8 recommendations, and I'll just touch on a few of them for you. The first was really increasing this transparency and knowledge and awareness of funding, both bank funding and VC funding, and I think that's really important. There is an enormous amount of money out there, there is an enormous amount of help out there financially, but actually making it very visible and transparent and allowing entrepreneurs to know where to go to get that funding is really important. So we've recommended that there is a code in the UK, a voluntary code supported by the government for banks to sign up to talk about how much money they're putting into female-led businesses. I'm delighted that we will obviously be signatories of that at RBS and NatWest, but Lloyds, HSBC, Barclays, Santander and the Angels Association have all agreed to sign up as well. And I think that code will just create that transparency and allow us to track that that funding is happening, but also give entrepreneurs comfort of knowing where to go to get help. We're also in particular launching a task force to encourage the VC community to have similar transparency and help them raise awareness of the money and support that's available, because I think that's important, but also highlight those who are putting money into good businesses that are led by women. So transparency is an important aspect. The second one is more funding available. There is a lot out there, but we want to make sure that we encourage as much opportunity as we can. One of the initiatives that NatWest has launched, working with Back Her Business, is the first crowdfunding platform in the UK that will be available to female starting up businesses, and we've put £1 million in that to match fund to get that going. So I think that's an important step. We're also encouraging a banker in residence programme, so this relatable local role model and help and support at the right point to really address this perception and skills and experience. So we're launching a programme where we're taking our bankers, putting them in residence locally, so there is local support to help people to open up their networks, to really create that environment. And I would really encourage everyone to do that, because the mentoring and networking and relatable role models has a disproportionate impact if it's hit at the right point in the cycle to really encourage people. Also, the other recommendation we're making is encouraging educators and schools and systems to talk about entrepreneurial spirit. And I know in the Netherlands since 2011, entrepreneurship has been on the national curriculum. We're encouraging entrepreneurship in schools through NatWest, through a Dream Bigger programme which I launched last year, where we're taking our entrepreneur mindset training course and putting it into schools for girls and encouraging that concept of starting your business, being an entrepreneur and giving them skills, but actually getting the pipeline really working in terms of STEM skills and entrepreneurship early in the cycle, I think is really important. So those are just some of the initiatives that we're doing. There are 8 in total. We're working really closely across public and private sector in partnership with other banks, with venture capitalists, with policymakers to really encourage change here. It's not going to come overnight, but I think the potential and the momentum is really important. And my encouragement to everyone who is attending the conference, if you can help, please help. Everyone who can contribute to this debate should lean in and support. We need to make sure that we're supporting female entrepreneurs, that we're creating a platform where they can thrive, that we're putting support in place, practical and real, and build momentum. And for us in the UK, there is a real valuable contribution to the economy, and I know that will be true worldwide. Thank you very much. I hope the panel discussion goes well, and for all of you who are keen to help, please do so. Thank you very much.